Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Punch, Kick, Choke Chat. My name is Sean Benson. I'm one of your hosts. We're not just back, we are back with our guest tonight. This is huge. This is a big night for us, and we're really excited. So as we do now with our new format, we're just going to jump right in with Professor Carlos the Ronin Newton. Now, I just want to jump right in, Professor, Champ. There's so many things I want to call you because I'm so glad you're here, and it's such an honor to be speaking with you. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Baby just went to sleep. I'm doing good.
Awesome. So my question I want to start with, and let's just get into the meat of some of these concepts, is why the Ronin? What does the Ronin mean to you? What does it mean to be the Ronin?
It's Ronin. You know, the Japanese symbol is a wave and the person on that wave, on the image of that wave. It's just going with the flow, going with life, working with life, you know, trying to be one with it. And again, also just present day concept of it is, you know, be not independent, you're still connected, but you're also don't owe anyone anything really. You owe it to everyone all at the same time. And life will dictate who you gotta give the attention to when you need to do it. And you just listen and you acknowledge the call. Yeah, and you don't fight it. Yeah.
And
maybe I just gotta go. Yeah.
I want to jump into something we were talking about right before the show started, which is Japan. And we'll talk, you know, throughout the interview, we'll talk about what put you there and what your experiences were. But why is that such a unique country for you? And I want to crack it open with Sensei Suino as well.
Yeah. For me, Japan's like such a unique place because there literally is only one Japan. I mean, I said to you guys, you can blindfold me, put me in a little wooden box, totally stoned out of my mind, drop me in Japan. Whoa, I'm in Japan. I'll know I'm in Japan. Like any place I haven't been in Japan, you drop me there, I'll know I'm in Japan. Yeah, there is only one Japan. Their culture, their approach to things, their aesthetic, everything about them is uniquely Japanese. You know, they have a lot of things that they have, you know, I guess you could call them imported into Japan, especially like a lot of American culture after World War II. But all those things, right down to break dancing, you can tell a Japanese break dancer when you see one. Yeah. Yeah, it's they got their own style, man.
Sensei Suino, you know, you've been there relatively recently, and also you used to live there. What are your thoughts on that versus, you know, our culture, and is it that unique?
Well, it is absolutely unique. The first thing I thought of when Champ said that was that I think the smell, right? The air, the smells of the food, the city. There's just a unique smell to it. So even blindfolded in a box, you know you're there.
Yeah, you like literally for a place in Asia, it smells very different from the rest of Asia.
Right.
It's amazing. Like again, it's just their aesthetic. You can smell. Yeah, even the smell is unique. Yeah.
Well, right on. So listen, I'm super excited to get onto your journey. So I'm actually going to jump right into these intros because I want our guests to get excited too, because I know that some people are going to want to ask some questions. And so welcome back, everybody. We took a little break for some summer vacation and some work and some travel that some of us had to do. And we're just so happy to be back with everybody. It's always my pleasure to introduce my three co-hosts who are also instructors of mine. And I want to start with Sensei Randy Dauphin. He's a 7th degree black belt in Legacy Shorin-ryu, as well as White Crane. And he's also a 4th degree black belt in the Aikido. And he trains in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he runs our Kitchener dojos. Sensei Nicolas Suino, who runs the Japanese Martial Arts Center. He's an 8th degree black belt in the Aikido, 6th degree black belt in Judo and Jiu-Jitsu. And Honshi Legacy, who's a 10th degree black belt. And he runs Legacy Shorin-ryu as well as Hakutsuru White Crane in Canada. And he's also a black belt in the Aikido. And we're all here to host. And Sensei Dauphin is going to introduce who we have the absolute honor of chatting with.
Thanks, Sean. And I also want to say, if you don't know who Sean Benson is a purple belt in BJJ and a long-time life member of Legacy Shorin-ryu, 5th degree black belt. runs the Toronto dojo for our association. Great martial artist, super good human being. And I think he does some acting on the side or something like that besides his martial arts. I think he does a little bit of acting once in a while as well. So I'm super excited to introduce the champ, Carlos Newton. Champ, if I get anything wrong, I'll give a break at the end and you can just correct it. So he was born in Anguilla and moved to Canada at a young age. He started BJJ under Tom Sharkey. In 1996, his coach and training partner, Terry Riggs, founded Warrior Martial Arts in Newmarket, Ontario. And that was actually Canada's first official MMA academy. Professor Newton followed his friend and training partner there, and his career has flourished since then. Listen, if you know MMA Association, he's competed in every one of them worldwide. So, you know, Pride FC, IFL, K1, Shooto, recently W-1, and this small association that nobody's heard of before, the UFC. He competed in that association as well. In those organizations, he's fought names that nobody will know. Names like Renzo Gracie, Sakuraba, Dan Henderson, Pat Miletich, Pat Hughes, Anderson Silva. Nobody's ever heard those names before, right? But the champ here has been in the ring with all of them. He's a third-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Renzo Gracie. Again, nobody knows the Gracie family in BJJ. He's a 5-time Canadian National Jiu-Jitsu champion. And this is the thing, I've been a fan forever. I watched the first UFC and I've watched them all since. He's the very first UFC welterweight champion and the very first UFC Canadian champion. I like to always talk about education. So we've talked about the fighting now. When he retired from the UFC and fighting, he enrolled at York University and he studied geriatric medicine, which I think is super awesome. We were talking about this before. I don't think
I was planning to study geriatric medicine. At York University, I did psychology, linguistics, and logic. That was my major.
That's even better. Psychology, linguistics. Yeah, that's even better. A couple of thoughts I want to provide is that when you think of the champ, you think of BJJ, striking, super good physical condition, dominating other people. We talked about this a few times, but he actually is an Aikido practitioner as well. From a young age, he did Aikido with Avi and Narita in Israel. A thought I want to provide for people is that he's a person who's moved martial arts forward in Canada and in a big way, not in a minor way, in a big way. We've had people like Mark Hominick on this show, and Mark, he spoke about the champ at length and how he like inspired him and how he watched him doing like flying arm bars and different things in tournaments and how that helped to drive him forward. And I want to just provide a quote that we posted, which I think is really, really true, right? And the quote is, "It's been said that the difference between a fighter and a martial artist is that when the fighter retires, they can only reminisce about the good old days. A true martial artist studies their art from the day they walk into the dojo, honing not just their own skills and knowledge, but the skills and knowledge of others as well. True martial artists are willing to give back all the effort, training, and time they were given to the next generation. Professor Carlos Newton is no exception, and in fact, he exemplifies this concept." And I just want to end with a quote from him. "Knowledge is not yours alone to hold. Passing on lessons from one teacher to the next." Carlos Newton. Champ, it's so awesome to have you on here today. Like, thank you so much for coming on and joining us.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Right on. Let me just do a quick bit of housekeeping, then we're going to jump right into it. So for the people who are watching on YouTube, you might be watching this live. That's amazing. We're so glad you're here. You might be watching it later. Hit that subscribe, smash the like button. We're so happy you're here. And for the people who are logged on with us, you get a special treat because you're part of our living history. You get to jump onto that chat button down at the bottom that Robert just lit up. So that just went red. you can drop questions in there. And if your questions aren't total rat shit, we'll ask the champ. The other thing to know is you're watching 5 adults have a conversation. If you don't like any of the content, then why don't you show up at Professor Newton's mats, and he can teach you about content while he ankle locks, toe locks, and breaks your arm. He wouldn't do that, but I'd like to watch it. In any case, we're so happy you're here. We're so happy to see what questions you want to know. Let's jump into it. Champ, what was it like growing up for you, and what brought you into your first dojo?
Yeah. Again, I was born in Anguilla and spent some time in the Virgin Islands. My stepfather was a 6th degree black belt in Shotokan karate. So I started pretty young. I can remember hitting a punching bag in the front yard filled with sawdust. And every once in a while, I'll hit a strategically placed piece of wood.
Oh,
that he purposely put in there. And it just kept going. Took me to a Kung Fu movie. I went to Kung Fu Showcase at theater when I was a kid. Grew up watching Jackie Chan before anyone knew who Jackie Chan was, before he was popular in North America. And I learned, that's pretty much where I learned to flip and kick. And came to Canada, was 9 years old, kept up my martial arts training almost for a long time on my own, just pure self-interest. And one day, when I started lifeguarding as a kid, one of the pool managers said, you love martial arts, come with me, I know a guy. And that's when I met Tom Sharkey. And he was the perfect person for me to meet for the first time as a sensei. Perfect, because from day one, he told me, there's only one rule, win. All the other rules are just guidelines. And let the technique flow, and don't confine yourself. Learn from whoever. There's something to learn from everyone, right down to the little kid beside you. And I just kept going. And then from there, I met all my other senseis from that point. But Tom Sharkey is the most important, most significant, because he was the first, but he was the right first guy. He pretty much, he gave all the other senseis carte blanche, and said, hey, teach them. And it was good. Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing, because you basically started in what's known as a relatively rigid karate style, but then you took it and were flowing with it apparently at a pretty young age, to the point where your first sensei is like, keep flowing. How important do you think the rigid sense of what a martial art is, or how important do you think what you learned, which sounds like a little bit of the other side of it, is?
Yeah, well, martial arts is funny because, like a child, they're born, their brain is completely formless, but you got to pour some structure into it. But at the end of the day, they then have to let go of all the structure so that they can be aware of all the different forms that'll come at them. And I'm a big fan of, living my life in a way that I want to just feel it. And when you can feel it, you're using all your senses. You're really taking it in one step at a time. And for me, coming into something like Shotokan and so forth, and then going all the way up to Judo, the soft way, and so forth, slowly evolve into Aikido, which is like my favorite martial art by far, to that point of where it's just the way of the spirit. It resonated with me right till this second. And so going back to your question, our senseis kind of teach us how to be aware, but in the end, we have to let go of what they teach us so that we can be completely aware. And they will just take it in. Yeah.
I want to come back to you and get into that first dojo, but I want to go around the horn on that, because I think that's a big concept. Honshi Legacy, where is the rigidity of a structured martial art? Where does that hit up against the need for the student to fundamentally let it go in the chaos of a fight and winning?
Well, I'm sorry I got lost in your question.
Where do you think the structure of a martial art needs to be let go of to win?
Well, when you step in the ring,
Hmm.
if you're putting it in that fighting thing, because your training's already done. And what I find, and I'm not a real expert on it, is that if you're facing somebody who's in real life trying to take you out, you don't want to be thinking about something else.
Hmm.
So you want your mind to be empty. You don't want to be thinking about your training, what he's going to do, what you're going to do. You just want to be ready for action. So you're at the moment that you have to defend yourself in that way. I believe that that's when all your training and all your senses kick in.
Thanks.
So there's a mild separation, but you really can't separate it.
Appreciate that. Sensei Suino?
Well, that's sort of the basis of what Bruce Lee always said, right? Was you absorb what's useful, right? And then he created Jeet Kune Do from elements of a lot of other martial arts. I think what Honshi Legacy just said is important, right? And in the moment of fighting, you have to be in the moment and not thinking about other things. But I also think there's another aspect to this, and that is how you follow your path in martial arts, right? You learn from different styles, you learn from different teachers, and we talk about it on this show a lot. You want to maintain your classical roots, but you also need to be creative. You also need to find your own path. I think both are important.
Mm-hmm. Sensei Dauphin, where do you go with that?
I go with a little bit of what Honchi Burkowski said, right? Shuriha. Like initially you need to just train, just listen to your sensei, your teacher, whatever that is, whether that's a 10-year process or a fight camp or whatever it is. You form your strategy, you train that without question physically. Then there's that point where it's like, okay, now I'm going to start to not ask the question of how, but why. Why am I doing this? Why? And then that last phase is detachment, where you're like in there and you're actually figuring out why you're okay, I trained this. I figured out why I need to train it. And now I'm in the stage where some of the stuff doesn't work and some of it does. And I need to just react and allow things to flow and happen as they do, whether that's a 6-week training camp or a 30-year martial arts journey.
And I love that. Coach, I'm real lucky because by being the central host, I get to ask questions and then I get to learn the most, it feels like. So you're with that first sensei and you start working. Tell us about some memorable experiences as a young man or even really a teenager in that first dojo and how that led you to Terry Riggs.
Terry Riggs. Fun guy, awesome guy. He's basically always been like a father to me and a best friend at the same time. And I think for us, our journey, both of us, was just ultimately how to live life in the present moment and just be present. And again, when you let go of your past learning and you stop trying to anticipate the future, you just become immersed in the present. And we used to just try to roll, and try to feel that on the mats and then take that feeling and try to extend it beyond the mats and try, in our personal lives and just our day-to-day lives and our interactions with people, don't judge and things like that. For me, a big thing too was just, I grew up with my mom going to Sunday school, went to Bible school and so forth. And, I studied, and same thing with Terry, I did theology in university and so forth. So we had a lot of talk, a lot of, chats about all that, what is it, what does the Buddhist really mean? Or what's the truth it's pointing to when it says, end that cycle of rebirth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth. And, they're basically saying, when you learn to be present, you stop that cycle, because the present is actually the only place where you exist or where anything exists. And then from there, extending that to how you fight or how you feel before a fight. A lot of times I realized, wow, there's a strong connection between that sense of lack of presence and fear. So, I remember as a young man being in a locker room thinking, wow, this guy, this guy's gonna kill me and so forth. You started learning the effects of mind-made time on that. And I started getting better at it as I started to learn how to be more present while I was just sitting in the locker room, talking with my coaches, relaxing, enjoying them, wrapping my hands, doing my pad work. And I felt like maybe in my last one of my last fights, I really felt the culmination of all those years of contemplating this and so forth. And I remember my coach before the fight said, "Man, you look really calm. There's nothing going on. You're just, I warmed up, but you look like you're like ready to go to bed." I said, "Yeah, I'm just here. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to say. Like, I've already gone through my moves in my head. I've done everything I could mentally, in terms of, my meditation, my breathing, all that stuff. But sure, when we got in the ring, I heard the bell and my opponent positioned himself where I was up against the fence. And right there, my body turned on. Like it just turned on. No thinking, no nothing. It just perceived, my entire being just perceived the storm coming. And time just slowed down, super slow. He threw a cross. I slipped it, and I could see the hairs on his arm. And I just went in, boom, boom, did my thing. All just pure feel. Take this, the water droplet down the side of the roof, taking the easiest path. And fight was over in like, a minute or so. And I remember getting up and my coach goes, "Whoa." And I said, "Yeah, I think I got to do something else with myself." I just kind of, it's time to do something else. And that was kind of when I started searching for not a new career. I actually had a new career in mind, but I really started to try and step up and lean into it more, at that point, because I realized I'm ready to take this beyond the ring, beyond the dojo. Yeah.
That's amazing. Let me throw this to Sensei Dofe. I know he's got some thoughts and questions.
I have some questions, Champ, if you don't mind, about competing against people that you like and respect, right? That's where, and I was sitting here, I know you have a third Dan under Renzo Gracie and BJJ, if I'm not mistaken on that.
Yeah. I'm technically due for my fifth, but
okay. I'm sorry, Champ. I apologize.
No worries.
Yeah.
I do my paperwork.
Yeah. Well, my question is, I was laying here for the last couple of days watching different fights on YouTube, and I watched you fight Renzo, and you beat him once in a split decision, and I know he beat you once. But one of the things that when you beat him, he looked genuine. Renzo doesn't look happy if he loses, but when you beat him, he looked genuinely happy for you. And my question to you is, what is it like to fight somebody who's a mentor to you, a person that you respect and you want to learn from? And what's it like to have to get in the ring and do your work there?
I remember that. It felt like one of the weirdest situations to be in, and one of the most unbelievable at the same time. One of the most like, wow, this is great. Like, I was excited. I was actually it was one of the first fights that I was like, wow, I'm like a kid in a candy store. Like, I could totally have gotten my ass kicked. Like, it was Renzo. Like, and you know what? Quite frankly, I wouldn't have been surprised. He, out of all the one element I worry about the most, if I ever do worry about a fighter, is their level of experience. How fit a guy is, how freaking yogi he is, never doesn't faze me. But a guy who knows every trick up your sleeve, every possible trick up your sleeve and their sleeve, and you haven't seen how many sleeves they got. It's just, that's something that you will spend some time contemplating about. Okay? It's just at that level, it is a mind game that as a young man you may not, you don't know if you're ready or not. You know, the guy tells you to do 50 push-ups, you know if you're ready or not. The guy tells you, you know, you're ready to do 50 mind flex, you don't know. You don't know if you're ready or not. The Gracies are known for their wisdom. And yeah, that was my first time going up against that level of wisdom. And fighting a guy who was a mentor and so forth was just, wow, this is either going to be, I'm either going to come up the other end of this in one piece, or I'm just going to, you know, go home and question, you know, wow, I'm back to square one. Yeah, but you know, the fight ended up being, you know, something where I realized, okay, I was on. I've been here the whole time. I wasn't dreaming. My training wasn't fake. I lived it. I lived it for real, because this moment's real and the outcome's real, and the outcome was real good too. So it was,
So did Renzo say anything to you after that you want to share? Anything? Was he like, man,
oh,
you shouldn't have beat me, I could have killed you? Or was he like, I'm so proud of you? Or like,
no, he was really cool. Because for me, the surreal thing was Hoist was his cornerman, and Hoist was one of the first Gracies that taught me. I was 16, and my first Gracie that taught me was Hoist. So seeing Hoist in his corner was kind of just really a little bit freaked me out a bit, but you know, at the same time, it's like, whoa, you're totally gonna do this. And that fight was also special because it was actually Team Japan versus Team Brazil, and I was the only person who wasn't, you know, a born Japanese on the team. So it was special for me in that way too, to have that cultural experience, you know, being as an accepted member of the team too. And for that, Renzo also thought, he said, you know, if there's anybody gonna lose to, rather it be you. You know, you're one of us. You know, you're one of the clan, and I basically said, yes, I am. I'll always be your student. And that was
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. You and Sensei Newton, you both like did that Japanese stuff. Besides your hair, you're both like basically the same person.
Thanks.
So I actually want to go back, champ, because you know, you started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu much earlier. It's so popular right now, and for people watching, it's really hard to understand how popular it wasn't in the late 80s, early 90s. It just wasn't a present thing at all. And so I want to ask you, what led you to BJJ, and then what led you from BJJ to Japan?
You know, for me, what led me to BJJ was I had an insatiable need to turn over every rock, to explore everything. I was just enormously curious about every aspect of technique. You know, I like, you know, and I think one of the things that led me to Japan too was just when I was in university, I studied Japanese language. My godfather is Japanese, you know, so I started to be exposed to it that way. I read a lot of books. The Book of Five Rings, one of the most impactful books for me. And, you know, when learning the Japanese word for technique, kind of pretty much semantically means ability. You know, technology gives us new abilities. That really, their idea, their in you know, conceptualization of the word technique really resonated with me as, if I could just make different categories for everything, what's my ability in all these different categories? If I can do 50 push-ups in a row, that's a technique in itself. It's an ability, you know. And what's your mental techniques? What's your, you know, it was all just abilities. And so I just went out there and just started to, I guess, try and see if there's some abilities out there I don't know about. And, you know, I literally was always constantly looking for what I don't know, you know, and trying to find it. If I knew it already, I I put it down and just kept going. I just kept trying to absorb it. I think for a long time in martial arts, I literally was just a newborn kid for almost the whole process.
And how long had you been competing before you went over to, let's say, Pride? And then what was the transition from, let's say, BJJ to full contact to mixed martial arts?
Well, the transition for me was really just BJJ was an extension of Jiu-Jitsu, small circle Jiu-Jitsu, and all of them, and just getting more to the ground. And the funny thing was, even as a teenager, I was super heavy into BJJ, but my home gym at the time was a boxing gym named Sully's Boxing Gym. It's actually the oldest boxing gym in Canada. It was opened in 1925.
Wow.
Boys and Girls Club. I actually did my first sparring session was in the ring that George Chuvalo fought Muhammad Ali. Yeah, and that was my first. That was my first sparring session in that ring. It was located in Sully's gym.
When I met my girlfriend, she was training at Sully's.
Yeah.
Wow.
So being jiu-jitsu, being heavy into BJJ, but then being around boxers all the time, it just naturally all started to blend. You know, like I'll be in the boxing gym. I remember training, sparring, my first sparring session with this guy named Gibby. And Gibby at the time was Canada's light heavyweight amateur champion. And he was my first sparring session. And coach put me in there. We went pretty easy for like the first couple rounds. And coach in the next couple rounds, 2 or 3 rounds in, the coach said, Gibby, open up on him. And I heard Gibby just turn, looked at me, and just started going, and just tore the punches in. And I was like, what the hell? And I remember the coach yelling at me, don't go down, don't go down. And I was thinking, does he mean don't get knocked out or don't actually like shoot and like try and take him down? Because, you know, being under that fire, he wanted to see if I'll stand and fight, you know, and not go down. And I stood and fight. And when the bell rang at the end of the round, I went back to the corner, and I remember my knees were wobbling and sometimes hit me so good. And I remember my knees wobbling, the coach telling me, don't go down, don't go down. And I stayed up, worked my way back to the corner. And I got to the corner and I said, Coach, can I take a punch? He looked at me and goes, oh yeah, you could take a punch. And right there, he's like, I knew I was going to be good at this. I knew I was going to be good at it. Yeah, because that was the only question left to answer. Yeah, you can give a punch, you can throw all kinds of kicks, you can tap guys up, but can you take a hit? Yeah, that day we answered that question. I could take a hit. And right away, the BJJ, the groundwork, the jiu-jitsu, the Aikido, the boxing, it all started to just be one thing. They really just started to lose all name, all identity, everything. It went right back to Sharky. Only one rule, win. That was it.
Hey, champ, listen, I'm going to ask everybody this question. I won't answer it, but you can go last. I'm going to start with Sean and go to Sensei Newton, then Sensei Legacy, then yourself.
Yeah.
It seems like you said, I can take a punch. You never said anybody taught you that. So my question to the group is, and I'm going to start with Sean, is can you teach somebody to take a punch, or is that an innate ability that people have when they come in? So Sean, what do you think?
I think it's innate, but what I do think you can do is teach someone to breathe through what their mind would tell them is a problem. I had a girl get punched in the throat. She was a white belt by Chelsea, shocker. And I just looked at her and I didn't ask her if she was okay. I just went, and she was like, and she just breathed in, breathed out, breathed in, breathed out. And then I looked at her 2 breaths later. I was like, and she goes, and they went back and had a great fight. And so I just think that people can go like that, and that's our job, but no one can give me a chin.
That's true.
Sensei Newton, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they're born with a lot of it, but you can certainly train it, right? Neck muscles, get used to impact, learn how to breathe, move through pain. There's lots of things you can do, but some people are born with a chin and some people have a lot more work to do to get there.
Sensei Legacy, can you teach somebody to take a punch, or are they just born with that?
Well, it's a combination of both, you know. Like the type of guy who can take a punch to the chin has to be mentally strong, right? Like that. So it's a different type of strength. Like a guy can just take a punch. You can learn it partially. Like, you know, getting somebody who's never been hit before, you get him in the gym, hit him a few times, you get a little braver. But a guy who can take a punch and I think that's sort of already in. Just like some guys are going to be basketball players, some guys are going to be football players, some guys are going to have that.
Amazing. Champ, what do you think? Because when I heard you say that, I was like, you didn't say anything about somebody taught me how to take a punch. You sat down on the chair and said, can I take a punch, coach? And he said, yeah, you can take a punch. Can you teach somebody that, or did you just have that?
Well, I think I kind of look at it like this, like 50% of taking the punch is your physiology, and the other 50% is how you handle it. You can tip the scale, you know, and if you do it right, you can come out on top. Because, you know, I wouldn't even say it's 50%. I'll say 20% of it is physically innate. 20%, 80% is how you handle it. You know, so if you mentally approach it right, you can tip the scale. You know, and depending on the situation, you know, really go at it. Some guys who are, you know, who have that full 20%, if they're just in a bad, you know, if their head's in the wrong space, you can knock them out with you can knock them out. You can knock them out. You know, but you got that you got that guy who's, you know, he's got like 1% glass jaw with a 20%. But you like, you know, if you look at his mom the wrong way, he'll come at you. He'll take your punch. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. There you go pop a bear on you.
Love that.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. I agree with what you're saying and what everybody said.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. So question for you now. So, and I'm going to blend this with a question from Robert Schlumsky, who's running our show and part of PKCC. You end up in Japan. Did you have any idea what Pride was or how huge it was going to become? And his question is, what would go through your head when you would walk into the ring for a match? I know you talked about that a little, but I love this question. And you're walking up, that thing's opening.
Yeah, well, you know, Pride was you know, didn't think it was gonna get as big as it did.
Whew.
No one did, you know. For me, my favorite place to have ever fought is still Shooto. Shooto for me has been just a real surreal experience. Really felt like I was competing in Shooto. You know, Pride, more like entertainment. UFC, definitely all entertainment. You know, and yeah, seen Pride grow. And I think the experience of Pride too is just a testament to how unique Japan is, because you can't put 90,000 people in a ring, in a stadium, just anywhere and hear a pin drop. That's uniquely Japan. And I think I know a lot of guys have had amazing MMA careers, but I think mine is uniquely special, and I feel very fortunate in that I did pretty much fight in both continents to the top level and really get to, you know, experience it all. Yeah, I think only a few guys, you know, have been that lucky. I'd say, you know, maybe Anderson Silva is the other lucky guy, you know, to have had that chance. Yeah, Pride's no longer around, so we don't get that experience anymore.
Right. I mean, you've really done it. And for people watching who don't know, Pride in the 90s was arguably bigger in Japan than UFC has ever been. Like it's a phenomenon. And also you were called by the president of Pride the unofficial middleweight champion.
Yeah.
Right? Like they didn't have that designation, but again, that's something. So before we jump to the UFC, because I know we're excited to talk about that, but What made talk to us a bit about Shooto, because SHOOTO, that's not an organization that gets talked about as much. How was that more legit, and how was Pride in UFC more entertainment?
Because for lack of better words, UFC these days is like professional wrestling where the guys hit one another for real. Shooto has a commission. They have a ranking system. They have a point system that determines the rankings. They just don't pull names arbitrarily out of a hat.
Right.
Yeah. Shooto, you can see yourself climb the ladder. When you're a number one contender, you are the number one contender. Whether you're boring, good looking, short, round, you're number one contender. No one can take that away from you. You could expect to fight.
Yeah. You're talking about the way the guys, especially in the UFC, will jump the line just by being a loudmouth or getting fans or good Twitter account.
Yeah, because admittedly so. They tell you all of titles are not real; they're ceremonial. And for me, it's something we're working on. Because what that actually does is blatantly eliminate competition between athletes. And when you eliminate competition between athletes, you're pretty much structured a market to be anti-competitive in many ways. So I remember one time they countering, because we did a class action lawsuit, and then countering, one of their quick responses was, "Oh, we're not sport, we're entertainment." I go, "You're a sport, man."
Yeah.
And let me tell you, all sport is entertainment, but not all entertainment is sport. But right now, you're trying to pass off your entertainment as sport, but you're supposed to be a sport.
Right.
Yeah. So we're working on that.
So actually, this seems like a great time. And normally we talk about things the guest wants to promote a little bit near the end, but this seems like a perfect time to tee up the MMAFA. So do you want to talk a bit about that and tell us what that is and what you're doing with it?
Yeah, the Mixed Martial Arts Fighters Association. That's a group that I'm really involved with. A lot of our group members have signed on to the antitrust suit. That was an endeavor I started way back when, like maybe 2011.
Yep.
And it's moving through the courts. It's doing well. And the other thing we're working on is we call it the Muhammad Ali Act. It's an act that covers and protects boxers and protects the structure of boxing and the integrity of the sport of boxing. That's what it's there for.
Yep.
And we're lobbying the Congress in the US to apply the Ali Act to all the prize fighting sports, not just boxing. Because mixed martial arts are prize fighters and so forth. And if the sport was structured properly, or promoters in mixed martial arts weren't allowed to do certain things, just carte blanche, it would naturally be structured identically like boxing.
Right.
As a competitive prize fighting sport. You look at all the league sports out there, they all have the same structure. When they go through, when an athlete in baseball goes to court, a basketball player can then use that as precedent in another court case in a completely different sport, but they're both league sports and have the same structure because they're both openly competitive, free competitive sports. Mixed martial arts, not openly competitive, not free competition, definitely not free market competition. And, we have problems as a result. So we're trying, for the MMAFA, we're just basically trying to get the Ali Act passed to cover all the prize fighting sports out there, especially mixed martial arts. And the other thing is too, we're the guys you got to work with. You want to join the antitrust suit and so forth. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And it seems to me like it's really necessary in something like fighting where fighters are paying a price, right? Like Gary Goodrich paid a price. Like a lot of fighters pay a price and therefore might not be as capable as another sport just because you are giving up some brain cells right along the journey. Like,
yeah, it's really hard on your body, it's crazy hard on your body. And the US Congress figured this out decades ago. The nature of prize fighting is such that we can't form a union. We're not employees. We're contractors, and our job more so than almost any other sport, is put you out of a job as quickly as I can.
Right.
You know, it ain't like tennis where you just go 6 rounds. No, this is either prize fighting could go 6 seconds or 6 minutes. It can just end like that. You could have just one fight, or you could have 60 fights, in a career, and it's very unforgiving in that way, and it weeds you out really quick. It's just because the sports is so hard on you.
Mhm.
And mixed martial arts is the only sport in the world that's structured in the way it is, structured in such a way that a promoter, for some reason, and we know the reason, is allowed to have their own title and exclusive contracts with athletes at the same time, without having to go through a sanctioning body, or an independent body for the title. What it does is just totally eliminates competition between athletes and between everyone. Now we're in a situation now as a mixed martial arts. You want to fight, say I want to fight you, Sean. Well, then we both have to fight for the same promoter. We don't have a choice. That at face value tells you that's restrictive. That eliminates market competition.
I'll promote that fight. Just if you want to know, I'll promote that fight.
It won't last long, but it'll be my fucking honor. I'll see. It'll be my honor. Let's jump back to Robert's question and tag this one. So what do you think when you walk into the ring?
Well, for me, when I walk in the ring, well, I think in the beginning, I took it a little serious, took it really seriously. That goes back to our conversation of presence. And as time went along, I just started to judge it less. Try not to feel good about it, and don't feel bad about it. Just let it be what it is. And only in Japan did I have maybe a different opinion sometimes. Walking into the ring, I just wanted it to be a little bit more fun. Sometimes, it's the only place, and I was the first fighter to actually do it. It was the only place where one of my fights, I wore a full kendo uniform, and they loved it. I loved it. It was crazy. A lot of guys have their own entrance song. It's usually something very North American. And I one time walked out to it's a very popular Japanese anime called Bonnie Pink. I walked out to that as my entry song. Everybody loved it. I loved it. Yeah. So walking out for pride fights was I just tried over time. I just tried to make it fun, make it more relaxed. My coaches and stuff came out right beside me. Sometimes we danced. Sometimes we just did a little shuffle. Yeah, just having the fun. I knew after a while, it very quickly dawned on me, this can't last forever. Enjoy it.
Whew. Love that. And actually that pivots to one thing that I just got to ask. We're talking about martial arts. We're talking about fighting. What does it feel like to be a rock star? Walking out there in Japan, you're a rock star, right? There's no difference between you and Mick Jagger in that moment. Like they're just going, 90,000 people are going nuts for you. Was that amazing? Did you tune it out? Did you benefit from it the week after in Tokyo? Like how'd that go for you?
There were times in Japan it was a little crazy. I remember there was times where trying to walk from my dressing room to 7-Eleven across the street to get a drink. It would take me an hour. Just people swarming you, just crushing you. I remember there was times where things got out of control a little bit, where that time was kind of cool though, because you have all these girls and everything. It was nuts. And I remember my coaches just surrounding me and trying to get me out of it because they thought they were all gonna rip me in pieces. And that was kind of neat. I was like, man, I would hate to do that every day. You know, it was crazy. And you know, walking out in the arena, that was something crazy too. Just so many people. It was nuts. I fought in UFC a lot. I've never had that feeling. I've never had that feeling. It was just insane and crazy. Yeah, we were rock stars. It was really cool. I won't lie, it was super freaking.
I bet it was.
Yeah,
Sensei
yeah.
Suino, you got a few questions?
Yeah, I guess this is a big departure, but I got 2 questions to ask now, and then maybe one a little bit later. Champ, you talked about rolling without anticipation. You know, so many people teach BJJ on a scaffolded technique basis, right? They say, okay, here's a technique, learn that. Okay, when that happens, you got A, B, here's your out, do the next thing. You go to a 3-hour seminar and you've learned 7 techniques that are scaffolded. I feel like when I roll, I try to eliminate all thoughts of technique. And that kind of resonates with what you said. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because you said that earlier about rolling without anticipating.
You know, again, learning scaffolding techniques, you know, or having your sets, your combos, and so forth. It's all good. It's all good. It's a great way to learn. It's a great way to have group conversation about technique because you're all on the same page. If you're talking about the same chain, you know, of techniques and so forth, everybody can go home, think about it, come back later to the dojo, talk about it. But there are times where you have to break past that in order to find the opening. Because I remember, for example, this was very important for me when I fought Renzo. I remember my coach telling me, make sure you get him into as many scrambles as you can because you win scrambles. Nobody thinks as fast as you in a scramble because you don't think. And that was whenever we ended up in a scramble, I came out on top, and Renzo figured it out really quick. So he would try to slow down the game and try to get us in that chess match. And I'll just be constantly trying to flip the chessboard. And that was the whole fight. Yeah, just me trying to flip the chessboard, him trying to keep it locked down and making us move one piece at a time. And that then goes back to my comment. That was the only thing that worried me about him, or in that fight in particular, his experience, his knowledge, his wisdom. You don't want to go chess with a guy like that. The grandmasters, man. You just, as soon as you get a chance, flip the board, smash the table, say fuck it, and go for it, and you'll have much better success. And you can actually see it in our fight. You could see there are moments when we scramble, I come out on top. When we slow down and stuff, you can see him putting his game together. You can see him looking at his corner, and they're telling them, yeah, now. And I can hear them going, I can feel it. And I'll be like, screw that. So I'll just get out of that situation and move it 100 miles an hour. It's a scramble. And on the scrambles, I came out on top. On the chest, not comfortable. Yeah.
Oh, man, that's some Miyamoto Musashi shit there, right? Like, showing up before the match, right? And popping out from behind a bush when nobody expects it. It's kind of the same thing, like you said, right? Turn the chessboard over, and fight during the mess. That's cool. I love hearing you say that. My other question is, I don't know if it's a question. I guess I want to hear what you have to say about this. Like, for a guy who's has a huge history of fighting in Shooto and UFC, to say that Aikido is your favorite martial art by far, man, that's crazy. Like, I would never in a million years have expected you to say that. Can you just walk that forward a little bit more? Like, why is Aikido your favorite, and how does that compare with all the stuff you've done up until now?
I think because Aikido, when your time, or just not talk Aikido, when your timing is perfect with every martial arts style, no matter what the technique is, when the timing and the execution is perfect, meaning you're literally in perfect harmony with your opponent, that's Aikido. That's Aikido. That oneness, that way of spirit, that oneness of spirit, the way of the spirit, that's Aikido, where you just meld with your opponent. That's Aikido. So there are techniques. I remember one of them was Ricky Hatton versus Floyd Mayweather. And Floyd is backing up, which is very Aikido thing to do. You lower your hands, makes your opponent come forward. You know, and Floyd Mayweather is backing up into the corner. That actually encourages Ricky Hatton to come forward and charge. Ricky throws like a cross. Floyd sidesteps in a circle and hits him with a left hook. But you can actually, when you look at it, it seems like he actually hardly touches him with that left hook. The time and the execution is so perfect, and he actually knocks Ricky Hatton out with that punch. That is a very Aikido, you know, situation. The way it all went down was like pure Aikido, the way of the spirit. Ricky Hatton, you know, almost gave that punch to Floyd, and Floyd just took it. You know, and that's why Aikido for me is my favorite martial art of them all, because when we're all karate guys, jiu-jitsu guys, when all our timing gets perfect and we all just get that universal feel for everything, we all look like one. We all look the same. Yeah.
It's like conceptual, really, more than the specific Aikido art. You're talking kind of about the conceptual aspect of Aikido.
Yeah, but also like the actual real experience of martial arts. When you do a foot sweep with perfect timing, it almost looks like you don't touch the guy.
Right.
And sometimes you watch Aikido as the way beginners learn it. Sometimes people say, "Oh, that'll never work. He already touched the guy." But I know, okay, I'll tell that same person, come spar with me. And I'll be like, I hardly touched you and you went flying.
Right.
You know, that's just the way it is.
I think I
Yeah.
can think of an Aikido guy I'd like to see a fight, Champ, personally, but he shall remain nameless, but I would still like to see you fight him.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no way. I love it. The way of the spirit. Yeah. Aikido. Mhm.
Jim, we ask all our guests the 10 questions, but I actually want to throw out one more question from one of our black belts, Justin Shay. I like the question a lot, and it kind of fits in with what we're talking about a bit. Do you think it's necessary for any serious martial artist to expose themselves to a high pressure contact situation like the UFC? Or do you think training hard in the dojo is enough?
You need structured lessons, all right, so that you are learning how to think critically and so forth, of your technique and so forth. But then you need to spar. You need things to be unstructured so you can actually hone the awareness to execute what you know. Because knowing doesn't generate awareness. Awareness generates knowing, true knowing. You know, and that knowing also evolves as we get deeper and more aware of things, you know, especially on a deeper level. You know, everything evolves like that. You know, the deeper our awareness goes, the more we know about it. You know, we do that with case law. You know, we do that with everything. You know, as we become aware of things on a deeper level. And for me in martial arts, only sparring can really do that, where now when a guy actually throws a punch for real, you know what to do. You'll know what to do. It's not like you will know what to do. You just know what to do. You know, I remember when I was going into geriatric medicine, I had a professor who was teaching people how to use a personal electronic device to overcome severe brain damage impairment that really impaired their ability to create new memories. So we had to tap into their muscle memory and how to learn how to use this device, because every 5 minutes they remember what you're just talking about. And I walked up to that professor, I go, I know exactly how you're doing that. And he goes, you do? I go, yeah, because I don't know what punch you're going to throw at me if I told you to throw a punch, but if you threw a punch, I will know what to do. It's just my muscle memory. My body knows what to do. I don't know what to do, but my entire being knows what to do. And you're tapping into awareness on a deeper level, and sparring does that to you. It brings your entire being into the technique, not just thinking about it on a superficial level. Is the punch 6 inches from your hip? Do you block right by your earlobe? Things like that. The real thing isn't that superficial. The real thing has a lot more to it. Like I just start teaching my kids, my son, I tell him, feel the mat under your feet, feel it, dig your toes into it, feel it, and let that feeling resonate up through your body until you start feeling my fist in your face. Just, and you'll figure it out over time. You'll move your feet. You'll move your feet because you're going to be aware of them. You'll move them. Because I got no time to teach you to move your feet.
No.
It's gonna take too long. Yeah.
Love that. We have a saying in my sober community: you can't think your way into right action, but you can act your way into right thinking.
Yeah.
Time for your 10 questions, champ. This is I got new glasses.
I didn't know that was
buddy.
coming.
These are your 10 questions that we ask all of our guests. We ask that you answer as impulsively as you can and then expand if you want to. What is the most effective move in your martial arts arsenal?
The ground, hitting someone with the ground. Nothing hits harder than the earth. That's what I was telling the kids.
Who is the most influential martial artist in your life?
The dude's dead, but I'll say Mayoru Yoshiba. Or, well, in my life now, I'll say Terry Riggs. Yeah.
Who do you think is the most influential martial artist of all time and why?
Oh my God. The most influential martial artist of all time. Man. I must say, that's a tough one, but in a funny way, I would have to say Bruce Lee. Yeah. He kind of like united everyone behind martial arts. Yeah.
What excites you most about the next 5 years of your martial arts training?
Oh, watching my kids do it, watching them like go from learning how to walk to learning how to punch, and seeing that process like fire in their brains, and like seeing the neurons make the connections, and realizing, wow, I went through that. I'm seeing it for real now because I know I went through it. I just wasn't able to see it. They will allow me to be a spectator to a process that I was very intimately involved in, but I don't know. I think I missed a lot of it. I really, yeah. I guess they're gonna give me a chance to watch my own movie for the first time.
Badass.
Yeah.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you get there?
What would I like to hear God say?
Yeah.
Everyone welcome. Yeah.
That's what Sensei Legacy said.
Yeah. Everyone welcome.
Do you have a favorite film and television martial artist, whether they're legit martial artists or not?
Oh yeah. I must say, still Jackie Chan, my favorite. He honed his art to a very high skill level. I think that's probably been unmatched by any martial artist in entertainment. There's no one. There's no one. Yeah, that guy sacrificed big time.
Yeah. That's a question I want to ask you about after this. Is there a martial artist in all of recorded history or unrecorded or whatever that you'd want to train with the most?
I would love to train with Musashi. That'd be insane. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
If everyone in the world could have the greatest benefit you've gotten from martial arts, whether they train or not, what benefit would they be getting?
The benefit they will get is when times are really dark, they'll find their light. Yeah. That's what it's there for.
What's your greatest achievement and your greatest regret?
Oh, my greatest achievement. I think my greatest achievement is smiling at my kids, even when they do stupid stuff. I think, yeah, smiling at them and seeing them smile back. And my greatest regret is being afraid of taking on that responsibility. Probably greatest regret. Being a fighter, I realized, what were you afraid of? Yeah.
You talked about Jackie Chan paying a price. You know, you fought over in Japan, especially in that pretty hardcore era, that great documentary, The Smashing Machine. I don't know if you saw that, but you know, fighters pay a price. And, you know, even somebody who's not fighting professionally, you know, I'm always worried about my joints. They're always getting torqued up. What prices have you had to pay, and what advice would you give to people to get as much out of a martial art as you can while not paying more of a price than you need to with your body?
Communicate with your body a lot. Yeah. Don't take it for granted, and talk with it a lot. Your body talks to you all the time. Listen. And also, don't be afraid to push your body as long as you're listening. You know, and also don't judge. Some days your body says you're gonna take a break, you take a break. Don't fight it. Yeah.
How's your body holding up?
I feel good.
Huh?
I think COVID, I put on a good bit of weight during COVID. My girlfriend lets me know that. And this November, I'm turning the garage into a dojo. So I'm gonna do like the new Thor movie. I'm gonna go from dad bod to like God bod.
Nice.
And I'm gonna make her pay for her words. Yeah, that's it. So,
Right on.
We're all looking for an invite to the garage, champ.
yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the garage too. And yeah, I've always had a garage dojo. There's only maybe the last 8 years I haven't had a garage dojo, and yeah, it's time for a new garage dojo. I have a new 8-month-old baby boy, and I need the garage dojo. Yeah, yeah. He looks like a real bruiser too. He looks very promising. So we need to do a garage dojo.
Sensei Newton, I want to throw it to you because I know you have some ideas you want to open up for maybe all of us about martial arts and the sacrifice we make to do it.
Yeah, I wonder, because you know, there's obviously the scales, right? Like there's a sacrifice to be a champion, sacrifice to be a martial artist. There's also like sacrifice to be a lifetime martial artist. We're all lifetime martial artists on this call, and you can't do that without giving something up. This takes up too much time. You can't. So I guess just going around the horn, like, what are the sacrifices we all make to be a lifetime martial artist, and what do you gain and what do you lose? Or do you lose anything or only gain? And Sean, how about we start with you? You're quick-witted, and then I'll go to Sensei Newton, and then Sensei Legacy, and then we'll go to the champ.
I mean, it's so interesting. I can't think of a single thing you lose. I mean, I'm going to get to some of the pitfalls for me, but it reminds me of meditation. Like the only thing you could argue you lose is time. But meditation is one of those things where you don't have time to meditate until you do it, and then it gives you all the time in the world. And that's what I feel like martial arts does. So you give it time, but then it gives back more time than you give it because of how it's taught me how to live my life and how to walk a Zen path. And so it's not even a loss of time. I mean, look, I have a relationship with my girlfriend where she just kind of knows that I'm unavailable at times. And that's a conversation. It's not much of a negotiation because we don't have kids. But it's on the books, you know, it's a specific thing. you're giving up time to your students. You know, Alden, one of my black belts, was running the club for 2 weeks while I was gone, and he had to do some juggling with you, Sensei Newton. He just texted me, goes, "Oh, I didn't realize how much of a thing senseiing is." And I was like, yeah, senseiing's the thing. And that's not even just doing your own martial arts. So that's real. But the biggest thing for me, Sensei, and I don't want to spend too much time on it saying about me, but you know, I'm at an age where my body's starting to speak back a bit. I got a torqued up knee, I got a torqued up hand and both fingers, and I got some tendon stuff in my forearms. And it's not just martial arts, but it pretty much is. And I don't know anybody, I'm 47, who's my age, who's less active, who feels better. They're just sore different. They're sore with a sore back, but they don't know how to do the stuff we know how to do. So when I look at that and I take 2 weeks off and I go, I don't feel better after 2 weeks off. So it's almost like I'm choosing the price, but the price would be the same either way.
Thanks,
I want to leave, yeah.
Sensei Newton, sacrifices, losses, gains from being a lifetime martial artist?
And when I was Sean's age, I used to get a good night's sleep and my muscles weren't sore anymore. Now I try to keep the muscles sore so I don't feel the joint pain, right? And I'm hoping Alzheimer's comes soon so I don't feel any of it. What have I given up? You know, for me personally, it's not a trade. I couldn't do anything else. I'm obsessed with martial arts. I've been obsessed with martial arts since I was 8. It's just who I am. I love it, and I'll keep doing it until I can't do it anymore. But when you get a family, it gets more complicated. So I guess if there's something I've given up, you know, I'm at the dojo 4 or 5 nights a week. I'll take a night off once in a while to go to one of my daughter's events or something like that. But I probably don't spend as much time with my kid as other parents do. And I can't say I regret it because it's just who I am. But that's something I've given up, right? I spend less time with my family and more time at the dojo. It's just who I am. I don't know. I don't know what the plus and minus is. I'm stuck with it.
That's a super honest answer, Sensei. You know, I really like that. Yeah. Sensei Legacy, you've done martial arts longer than any of us. So, you know, you're older than all of us. Sacrifices and gains.
Gains, like the gains in martial arts is when you become a martial artist, no matter what, and you train hard, no matter what happens, is you're going to get better. Whether you're on a bad path or you're on a good path, that's going to happen to you. But sacrifices, I don't know. I think like who'd quit tomorrow? Who'd quit tomorrow here? Right. Like, I don't understand that question, because for me, it's like I get up in the morning expecting to go to karate. That's my life, right? Just like you guys, that's my life. That's what I do. So you're gonna have good and bad days, but I don't quite know how to put my finger on that. A little bit like Mercury.
Yeah, that's a good answer too. A bit like Mercury. I've heard you say that before. I'm going to go to the champ next. I just want to mention, maybe it's practical. Like, you know, Robert, who's hosting this, started training when he was 5 years old, right? Like, so he's working this. There were times when he could have went to a party with a pretty girl and done something, and he didn't. He had to sacrifice that so he could come to the dojo the next day and train, or he came on a Saturday to train. And so I do think there are some things you have to put aside in order to be a lifetime martial artist, or you can't be. And so maybe it's not a sacrifice that we care about because we're happy to do it, but you lose something. Sensei Newton said it, like he spends less time with his kid than he would if he wasn't a martial artist. But his kid probably gains a better dad because he's a martial artist. Right. So anyway, having said that, champ, I don't want to pontificate too much. What do you think? Sacrifices and gains on being a martial artist? What from a youth, you're a martial artist. What did you have to give up to be where you are? And you're going to continue to give up or put aside to keep moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I do remember being a younger man and training and so forth, being in the, I remember, you know, for my 6-hour training days, splitting it up in blocks of time, I remember lots of that time I was just by myself. Yeah, sometimes it's a lonely journey, and when you're in your late teens, early 20s, the level of focus and dedication, you definitely know you're sacrificing some fun.
Hmm.
You're very aware of that. All your friends are going out clubbing, and you're just, man, if I could just walk into that bar with my t-shirt off, I'll be rocking it. But
Yeah, you'd be rocking it for sure, champ.
you just can't, your coach is calling you at 10 o'clock saying, you in bed? Yep. That's it. And it was Sensei Newton. I'd opened a dojo of my own not too long ago, but then I realized the dojo hours were really cutting in to the time with my kid and so forth. And I had to figure out a way. I said, you know what? I'm gonna close the dojo. I'm gonna come back to this later. I gotta spend some time with this guy. Do what I gotta do. Yeah. My father was nothing like me. I just put it that way. And I wasn't gonna make the same mistake, that's for sure. And I guess also too, it's just me and my family. There's only me. They don't really have I don't really have much other extended family there to reinforce my relationship with my kid. I gotta do that work. I gotta, keep him close to me. And so that was one of the things I did. Am I sacrificing my martial arts growth? No. I felt like I'm literally growing in other ways as a martial artist. My kid has given me a whole nother level of patience, which I totally understand now what it means, defense and offense, because I totally get it now. And so you do sacrifice, but I think you definitely get a lot more back. Yeah, in ways that you don't know until the moment comes and you realize, I get it. And there's always been a thing about me with me and my friends. Whenever the shit hits the fan, my friends always look at me. No matter what the situation, they just look at me. He knows what to do. Because I guess if it's a social, intellectual problem, I can handle it. If it's a physical, brawny problem, I can handle it. So I kind of like that one-stop shop for problem solving.
7-Eleven of problem solving.
Yeah. If somebody has to go in that room where nobody knows what's in that room and come back out, they'll send me. So sacrifices have given me that ability, and I guess I haven't been in every room yet to discover what those things are that I have gained. But
Hey, I'll tell you one thing we've all sacrificed. As people over 40, we've all sacrificed the ability to get out of bed and put our feet on the ground without pain.
yeah.
Amen. Champ, we've got not as long as I'd like left. You're the first ever Canadian UFC champion, middleweight UFC champion. Talk to us a bit about that. Like, does that feel significant to you? Did it at the time? And are you still pissed at Big John McCarthy for giving Matt Hughes the win?
Yeah, that's bullshit. I'm still pissed off.
I'm pissed at that.
I'm pissed off at him for sure.
I think John's pissed too. I think Big John is still rolling over.
Yeah, he made a few mistakes. He's a great ref, but he made a few.
Yeah, and it's safety first. What can I say? But it's great. I feel very fortunate to have competed in the time period that I did, in the era that I did. I think I got to see the best of the different stages of the sport, when it was nose barred to when it was more structured competition to, hey, this is just simply entertainment now. But I must say, when it became entertainment, I was like, time for me to step out and just do martial arts. And yeah, this patented and structured exploitation is not, it's not for me, man. Yeah, I'm a Ronin. That's when the Ronin part came out. Yeah.
Well, I really agree with you on that. I mean, you did straddle all the eras, and you fought guys with no weight categories. What was that like? And do you think there's still a place where the UFC should just have an open contest, or do you like the weight categories?
Right now, back in the day when it was no holds barred, when there was no weight categories and so forth, that's what it was. We're all starting out. But at some point, greed and the greed of promoters started to take over and take the sport hostage. And you say, would it be better to have, do I like weight categories versus the open contest? It doesn't really matter to me as long as competition within the sport is structured. I will do either one. I think there's room for either one. Yeah.
And my last question for you before we go around the horn and then give you the last word, and I think this is an important one. You talked about meditation and breathing when you talked about your preparation. You said, I did my meditation, I did my breathing. And I know that through Renzo and through the Hicks and Gracie camp, that side of things, that's fundamental to the work. Talk about what that looks like for you. What does your practice look like, and how important is it to a martial artist?
Well, I think breathing is important to everyone. It's the most important thing we do. It's movement of the breath, movement of the mind, but it's also just a great way to generate awareness, because your breath itself is formless, has no color, has no odor, at least if you brush your teeth. And if you could hone in and try to feel your breath, which really you can't feel. there's nothing to feel. You're just feeling the air coming in and so forth, but it has no form to it. It's just taking the shape of your lungs. So just by being able to feel that, you're already getting a deeper sense of connection with who you are in that moment, from the inside outward. And that's kind of like where the technique starts too. It starts with a sensation in the body, and you respond to it. And for me, breathing is just a big part of it. And depending on the situation, breathe in when you're throwing a punch, breathe in when you're lifting the heavy weight. They're all different types of breathing, and just getting your breathing where it's just one with what you're doing. I know my action is going to be right with what I'm doing. And so you can't separate it. And the last thing I'll probably do in this world is breathe.
And do you have any specific stuff like the fire stuff, or the like specific exercises you do, or is it just generally a consciousness of the breathing?
It's definitely just a lot of consciousness of the breathing. Just and then also too, my favorite breathing coach right now is my 8-month-old baby boy. And all I care about is if he's breathing, especially late at night when he's breathing so quietly. I'm just thinking, I gotta put my hand in his chest. Just make sure he's breathing. And I see how cool and relaxed and how well he does it. I do it too. I love laying with him on my chest, and our breathing syncs up. I love it. Yeah. Babies are the best at it, man. They got that yogi breathing down pat. I mean, especially when he does the happy baby pose. I'm like, man, I wish I could do that. Yeah, but amazing. Yeah.
Champ, sadly, time is real. I want to get into every one of your fights, everyone you trained with, but I'm afraid we don't have time. So what we do is we go around the horn, which is our way of saying that we talk about our time with you and specific things that stood out to us, and then we'll give you the last word before we come back for some what's coming up stuff. Honshi Legacy, what do you want to chat about?
Well, I really appreciate the time with you. I especially liked where you got more into, because you're a bit like a prize fighter, and then you start talking about the Zen aspect and the Zen side of it, how deep it really goes. Those were some of the questions I wanted to ask you, but everybody else came up with them, so I just listened intently. So I appreciate meeting you, and hopefully we'll have you back and talk about some of those other things that happen outside of the fight.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thanks.
Sensei Suino?
Champ, I love the talk of Japan. I would love to do more of that sometime. Hearing some of those common experiences. Of course, the best possible chat would take place somewhere in Tokyo over some good food and beverages. I know Randy likes to go through his notes and say a lot of things. I just want to highlight some of the things that resonated with me, and they're all around this idea of, like you said, the child's brain is formless. You pour form into it, and then they have to let go of form. You said you're a fan of living by feeling it, right? Taking it all in. What else did I write down? This was great. Nobody thinks as fast as you do in a scramble because you don't think. Relative to training versus sparring, you said you need things to be structured, then you need things to be unstructured. And I think one of my favorite quotes of the evening was, knowing doesn't generate awareness, awareness generates knowing. Lots to think about. Love it. I'm still trying to gather my thoughts around the whole idea of somebody who spent so much time fighting, who also says Aikido is his favorite martial art, but I appreciate what you shared with that. Listen, man, thank you so much. It's delightful to meet you. I can't wait to shake your hand if we ever get in the same room together.
Right. Thank you, Sensei. Pleasure.
Sensei Dauphin?
Yeah, so Champ, I always write down lots of notes, since the Suino just referenced. And we didn't get to a question from one of our favorite people, Sensei Copeland. I don't know if you know Sensei Conrad Copeland in Windsor. Really, really amazing human being, great karate person. And maybe you two can connect offline, but his question was, have you always been so scientific in your approach to fighting? Because I heard lots of scientific approach and also lots of theoretical approach. So yeah, I like when you said about being the Ronin, right? That you don't owe anyone anything, especially when you get in the ring. It's pretty cool. I don't know if anybody outside of this podcast ever knew that your stepfather was a 6'10" in Shotokan. Make it hit a bag and you had to bust your knuckles on strategically placed wood. That's pretty cool. That Tom Sharkey said you only had one rule, just win. That's a good rule. Sensei Legacy kind of gave that rule to me like long ago as well, right? Live your life in a way that you can feel it. Sensei Legacy again always says karate's it's not a thing, it's a feeling. Karate's a feeling. He says that often when we're doing martial arts. That Terry Rigg was both like a father and a best friend. It's pretty cool that he is a theologist, right? I did some theology, and I know Sean Benson's dad did a lot of theology as well. So that's a good subject to study. Do meditation and breathing to have your body turned on. Yeah, I want to mention that, you said your first trainer was Renzo Gracie, and you might not know this, but Sensei Suino did a seminar with him once, and he always graded Sensei Suino to his blue belt on the day. On the day, awesome. He graded him to his blue belt. So I apologize for saying that you were a third Dan, that you're currently a fourth Dan, and you just need to do your paperwork for your fifth Dan, and that doesn't surprise me in any way. Sully's gym, man. Anybody who ever boxed knows where Sully's gym is. Yeah. It's cool that you were in the same ring with that Ali and Chevalier fought, and it's super cool that you came back and you said, I can take a punch. I like that. Yeah. I like that you said Shooto was your favorite place to fight because it was not entertainment, it was actually fighting. That's a really good thing. That whole thing about entertainment, I think we've all seen it in the other fighting associations, but you really articulated it really well. In Japan, when you fought, there were 90,000 people and you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
That's outside of North American thinking and philosophy. All sport is entertainment, but not all entertainment is sport. That was something you said. All of us I know hope that your MMA Fighters Association and the Ollie Act comes through, and you can count on any of us. Like if this vehicle can help you in some way, or we can help you, like don't hesitate to reach out. We'll do it. The walkout, just let it be what it is, right? Everybody should be doing that in life, period. Just let it be what it is. Like the walkout, wherever you're walking out, just let it be what it is. And that this can't last, so enjoy it. That's something about life, brother. Like this can't last, just enjoy it. Your 10 questions, I love that. Your most effective move, hit them with the earth. Like I like that a lot. You're the first one to say Masabo Yuhira, but also Terry Riggs is the most influential martial artist in your life. Jackie Chan sacrificed all that conversation about that. So cool. I don't know if you know Robert Mustard, Sensei Robert Mustard. He's been on this show. He's a good friend of ours. He's probably one of the most elite Aikido practitioners in the world. And like you, he said that he wanted to train with Musashi. Actually, he also said he wanted to fight him as well. So yeah. Greatest benefit, when times are dark, you're going to find your light. That is 100% true. You feel shitty, you come to the dojo, you're going to feel better when you leave, period. Always.
Yeah.
You stay on that path, always. I like that your friends look at you as the one-stop shop of problem solving. That's, yeah, man, that's a good place to be. And the last thing is, he said, when it becomes entertainment, it was time for me to step out and do martial arts. That means we're all the same. We're all fucking martial artists. It's not entertainment. It's about being a martial artist. And Champ, I'm super proud that you would come on Punch Kick Choke Chat, and love chatting with you. Canadian pioneer. Yeah, I can't wait to see you. I hope I get to shake your hand and give you a giant hug and train in your garage dojo sometime.
Yeah, so that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Sean?
Well, thanks, Sensei. I just got so much more than I expected tonight. I was expecting some cool highlights and to tap into an era of fighting that really means a lot to me, because it's when I started training in the 90s. But I had no idea how deep we were going to go on the way you look at the world, and just your concepts of even breathing in and that air once it becomes a part of you. I mean, I'm just picturing the way we're not separated from the world by virtue of that, quite literally. And even you said something early on, about how you've got the death and rebirth cycle, and when you get present, you end that and you effectively level up, you boss level it. And I mean, that was 5 minutes into the convo, and I'm like, can we just pause while I go meditate on that for a sec? Because I don't want to miss it. So I just want to say, you stimulated so many thoughts within me, and yeah, I'm such a fan of the fighting you've done and the training you're continuing to do. So it's just such a gift and honor as well to have you here. And the last word goes to you.
Well, the pleasure chatting with you guys. You guys are, I love your show. It's really, you guys got it down, man. It's got a nice flow. It's real nice. It's very entertaining, and feels like really good company. Like, this is good. I feel like I'm in the bar, but I'm not in the bar. And yeah, and Sensei Legacy, is great seeing you. And yeah, I'm a big admirer. You remind me of that dude in Dragon Ball Z. He's one of the old senseis in Dragon Ball Z. It was just totally all powerful. But you definitely have the look. You do walk the walk. So it's a real pleasure spending the evening with you. Yeah, and thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, I look forward to it again.
Thanks so much, Champ. I'm going to throw it over to both Sensei Dauphin and Sensei Suino to talk about our upcoming 2 weeks.
Yeah, so we're back on schedule now. Just so anybody watching this, you have to be a UFC champion for us to change the date and the time to what it usually is. And I'm happy that we did. But yeah, we're gonna do a chat next Thursday, and then we're gonna do a host chat the Thursday after that. And since what's happening next Thursday? You have a better relationship.
Next Thursday, September 1st, we're going to talk with Angel Lemus, who is the publisher of Bugeisha magazine. So that's a magazine that really focuses on the classical martial arts. And it was published for about 3 years in the late 90s and then went out of business. And he and some other guys have brought it back, and the articles in there are top notch. He's also a lifetime martial artist. So we'll be able to kind of visit both of those paths with him. And I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be a whole new kind of walk that we haven't done before on this show.
Awesome. And then when we do the host chat, just remind everybody, host chat is your opportunity to get on, ask us a question, get your face on the show, and be part of history. Like your face is going to be on the same show that the champ Carlos Newton's face was on. If that doesn't want to get you on here and ask a question, I don't know what is. So yeah. And then we're going to get back on our regular schedule of Thursdays because summertime's over, so we don't need to go to the beach anymore. And yeah, we got other exciting things. We got a new website coming out soon, new social media presence. We're getting ready to level up on Punch Kick Choke Chat really soon too. So even though you don't see us, we're working on it.
Thanks so much, Senseis, for that. Everybody, we're so glad you're here. Thanks, Champ. Thanks, Senseis. We'll see you next Thursday, not next Wednesday. Be safe, everybody. We want you here next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Great to talk to you.
Okay.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.